This is Wake, bringing you another Monotype battle commentary. This one is going to be Psychic versus Grass. It's a bit of a favorable matchup for Psychic, just because I have a lot of options to deal with a lot of his major threats, but there are still ways that you can play around a lot of things that I'm going to want to do. So, I think I'm going to lead with Victini just because that allows me to create momentum turn 1. And I'd rather find myself in an unfavorable matchup creating momentum off of Victini's Volt Switch, or U-turn, rather than find myself in a bad position with Jirachi and getting the turn 1 Stealth Rock. Okay, and it's actually Cradily that takes his lead spot on, so I just U-turn off, and that's a huge chunk of damage. Now I can go into Jirachi. He gets his Stealth Rocks, but I can get my Stealth Rock too, and his Cradily can't really stay in here, so that opens up for me to... And he goes into Tapu Bulu. That's really favorable for me, because now I can just start Iron Heading Tapu Bulu, and Tapu Bulu doesn't really have that many moves that are terribly threatening to Jirachi. Even if this is still the choice Scarfed Tapu Bulu, he can fire off a superpower that won't one-hit KO me, and then he'll be susceptible to going down to Iron Head with the defense drop. And he does have the superpower, and like I said, there's the Iron Head KO into Tapu Bulu. He probably wants to go into Ferrothorn here, just because that's the Pokemon that's least afraid of being one-on-one against Jirachi. And he actually goes into Breloom instead. Breloom probably wants to set up a Spore onto Jirachi, which is totally fine by me. Jirachi's not really going to provide me any offensive threat in this matchup, so I think I'm just going to sacrifice. And he goes for the Mach Punch there instead. That's actually kind of a really questionable choice. And so I can just keep firing off Iron Heads because Mach Punch is not that threatening damage-wise for Jirachi, and honestly, Jirachi is probably the second most favorable Pokemon in this matchup for me to let go to sleep to Spore. Here I probably need to get Victini out into, or Jirachi out into something that opens up a little more offensive pressure against Venusaur. I think I'm going to go for the Thunder Wave first, just to really create problems going forward for Venusaur. Jirachi should probably... Okay, he actually goes for the Seeds. And Seeds basically gives him his entry back for free, but it's one of those... I don't really think that his Venusaur is all that offensively threatening in this current position, so I can go into Metacham and just start firing off Zen Headbutts. All he can really do is, if he thinks that I'm choice locked here, he could go into could have gone into Ferrothorn there, but instead he chooses to go into Celebi. Don't really have any... With the fact that I choice locked myself into Zen Headbutt, that doesn't really create that much pressure onto Celebi. This is going to be kind of a very critical juncture, just because I think that my Victini and his Celebi are likely speed tied. So if my U-turn goes off first, then that cost him his Jirachi. If his Jirachi attacks first, that's very likely to be, if not an outright KO onto Victini, at least very close. Okay, that is definitely the KO into Victini. And so he wins the speed tie. Here I basically just need to get something that will be substantially damaging into Celebi. And Latios is definitely faster than Celebi at this point. And so he goes into Venusaur. Venusaur still doesn't like eating Draco Meteor, though, and so the -2 Draco Meteor will take down Venusaur. Right now I'm in a position that I like a fair bit. It's not the dream scenario, but there's a very clear path to my victory at this point. Really, it just requires lining Metacham up against Ferrothorn. And then when Metacham lines up against Ferrothorn, if it can take Ferrothorn down, then Latios is able to freely open up the path to victory. I think here I'm going to do something that could be interpreted as being really dumb on my behalf, but I have a plan. He's probably going to protect here, but I'm still going to choice lock myself into high jump kick. It'll cost most of my Metacham's HP, but next turn, Metacham can still high jump kick into whatever comes and likely take it down. And if Ferrothorn happens to stay in, then that just makes the situation even better. Neither of his two remaining Pokemon are... And, okay, Ferrothorn does stay in, so Metacham gets to live long enough to potentially fire off one more high jump kick. The more likely outcome is that... Okay, it's Cradily, actually. So Metacham gets to fire off another high jump kick into Cradily. I was actually kind of expecting the next Pokemon to be Breloom, and there's the Breloom that I expected. So Breloom here Mach Punches to take down Metacham, but that lets me put in anything that I want, which in this case is Meloetta. And so from here, Meloetta, since it's going to be specs locked into whatever move it does, I think the most favorable idea is to fire off Dazzling Gleam. And that takes down Breloom, and when Celebi comes in, Celebi can basically do whatever it wants. If it tries to Nasty Plot, it eats a Dazzling Gleam and likely goes down. If it attacks into Meloetta and KOs Meloetta, then Latios can come in and KO with Draco Meteor. So I think this one's basically in the bag. And actually, the attack doesn't even KO Meloetta, so Meloetta fires off the last Dazzling Gleam, and Celebi goes down. And that's the game.